impressed with your economic background, but they're also concerned about protecting the Constitution. Could you please tell everybody what you told me about the Patriot Act?
Oh, the Patriot Act. Yeah, I've often, gotten argued. The Patriot Act is probably the single most unpatriotic bill that's ever been passed, at least, in memory in Congress. And that's often how Congress works. So it's amazing how, they try to get after the private sector for truth in advertising. There's no truth in legislating. Whenever a bill is, the title is always the exact opposite. So if they were going to try to complicate taxes, they would pass a bill called tax simplification, and then people would be for it. So the Patriot Act is really the unpatriotic act, but if they called it that, then nobody would vote for it. But one of the most onerous provisions of the Patriot Act is the Anti-Money Laundering Act. And that's supposedly in there to get terrorists. I mean, that's all nonsense. This has nothing to do with terrorists. This has to do with ordinary Americans who may or may not be paying their income taxes. That's why it's there. They never could have gotten that in peacetime, but they slipped it in. So here's what it's done to me as a stockbroker and to you as a potential investor. There is no longer any financial privacy in this country between an individual and his banker or his investment advisor. It's completely gone. I am now an unpaid IRS agent and FBI agent. And I am required, at significant expense to myself, might I, it's very expensive for me to do this, I have to put in place an intricate formula to spy on my clients. I have to watch every single transaction they make. I have to ask them questions about their money. Where did they get it? If they want me to send them a check, what are you going to do with it? I have to ask all kinds of questions about their finances. I have to monitor all their transactions, all their buys and sells. Not to see if it's a suitable or a good investment, but because maybe they might be something that would be indicative of the fact that they're laundering money, i.e. not really paying income taxes. And if I find anything that looks suspicious, I have to give that information to the government. Now, I can't even tell you that I think it's suspicious, because I'm not supposed to tip you off. I'm supposed to just rat you out. And if I don't do it, if I don't prove to the government that I'm doing it, I can go to jail. I can be fined. I can be put out of the business. So you don't even have to be doing anything wrong. I just have to think that maybe you did something wrong, and then I got to tell Big Brother about it. Now, I mean, that's not the kind of country that I want to live in. I want people to know that they have privacy in their personal affairs and their papers, and if they're talking to their banker's not spying on them. Their banker's not trying to figure out if maybe I'm doing something wrong so he can go to the government. And maybe you're not doing anything wrong. Do you really need government agents, looking over your stuff because somebody said, hey, maybe this guy's doing something wrong? So this has completely run up the cost in the brokerage industry, in the banking industry. It costs a fortune, an absolute fortune for me to comply with this, and all my clients' rights have gone out the window, and I don't like it. I don't like being an unpaid IRS agent. I don't want to be an IRS agent at all. But if the government thinks one of my clients is cheating on their taxes, fine. Let them figure it out. Don't involve me. Do it on your own. Get court orders. Do it the legal way. Respect the Fourth Amendment. Respect the Fifth Amendment. There's got to be some kind of due process. Now, what about involuntary servitude? I don't want to work for free. Nobody wants to work for free. So it's a terrible bill. And again, it's an example of the government using the terrorists, using this tragedy of 9/11 to take away our rights, to scare us into surrendering our rights, because they say we need this to protect us. We need this to fight terrorism. They're not fighting any terrorists with this bill. I mean, I often joke, they say, we want to make sure that the terrorists aren't investing their money with U.S. brokerage firms. Why? They'll lose it. Imagine if the terrorists had bought some .com stocks, or had bought some subprime mortgages. They'd be broke. Instead, we force them to put their money in gold, and now look where they are. Yeah.
Just for clarification, you're telling me that if I wanted to sell stock, I would have to tell my stockbroker the reason I wanted to sell my stock?
And, well, if you want a check, they're supposed to ask you what you're going to do with the money.
Spend it.
Oh.
Obviously.
Or where you get it. More importantly, if you send me a bunch of money, what's the source of the funds? Where did you get it? And then you have to tell me, and if it doesn't make sense...
You're talking about if I want to buy stock.
Right, when you're sending money in. But
what if I want to sell it? Do I have to tell what I want to use it for?
I'm supposed to ask. See, you don't have to tell me. But if the things that you say are suspicious, then we're supposed to report it.
If I said to you, I'm going to spend it, is that suspicious?
I don't know. It depends on all the other things that I'm looking at. But the whole point is, We are supposed to have a procedure in place to follow all of our clients and monitor their transactions to look for suspicious activity. And if we find any, we have to file a report of suspicious activity. And if we don't, prove to the government that we're monitoring all our accounts, and if they come by and they look at it, then they can fine me. They can kick me out of the brokerage business. I mean, it's a terrible thing. And this is, it's the camel's nose under the tent. I can only imagine how much more onerous these rules are going to be as time goes by, especially as the government becomes even more corrupt, as taxes become higher and higher to the point that nobody can pay them and survive. And so the government has all this control. I don't want the government to have all this control. I want to fight terrorism, but I don't want to surrender the Constitution to do it, because then the terrorists win. And what are we fighting for? There are so many famous quotes of famous people about that you cannot surrender liberty for safety or comfort, because you're going to end up losing them both. We can't do that. Yes, we should fight terrorists, but we have to preserve our rights in the process.